Morning. I want to find out if this material is usable. I know that it is, but am I presenting it in a way that you can activate use of it in your daily lives? And what I want to try to find out is, how did you feel this past week? Did you have a moment of awareness? Did you have a moment where you identified, oh, wait a minute, that's that thing we talked about on Saturday, identifying the ego, identifying different thought patterns. It takes practice to get comfortable and consistently familiar with it. But if you have any thoughts or comments on anything that happened the past week, we'll try to capture that maybe at the break or at the end of the day, okay? I find myself consistently, because I get the opportunity and I've read these books and put this information together, I find that it just pops up in my brain on an ongoing basis, and I find it really helpful. It's a great tool, and that's the purpose of this whole conference, is give you tools that you can begin to take what I feel is control of how your brain is working and what you're thinking about. And because the whole impetus for doing this is that I often see people derail themselves, not intentionally, but we have beliefs. It's really easy to stay on track if you know where you're going. Somebody may shift you left or right, but you're going to get there if you know where you're going. I think most people don't know where they're going, or we haven't taken the time to really form a true destination, a true vision of what we think our life is about. If I ask anybody, what's your life about? What's your mission statement? Most people give me that glassy stare and what are we talking about? So any good business has a mission statement because it allows them to make decisions, because if a decision is out of alignment of its mission statement, they know that's the wrong direction. Good companies do that, but we should also do it, okay? So we're going to talk about goals and mission statement today. And then in the latter half of today, we're going to talk about the craving mind, because nobody's ever experienced a craving mind, right? We crave all kinds of things. So Judson Brewer is a really smart guy, PhD, MD, does research, and he's got some very interesting ideas on that topic, and we're going to hit on that. I think it'll be interesting information. So let's jump right in. I love this quote. If you know Captain Jack Sparrow from the movie, the Caribbean, the problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we ready to change that? We identify problems in our life and we put big circles around them. We say certain things happened because of this, or we see problems that we have to solve. But oftentimes the problem is not nearly as bad as our thought process around that problem. So we're going to begin to explore that. I want to uncover things that you and I will all identify with, right? The stress victim. These are things I hear from people. These are things I hear from myself at times, right? We'll say something, well, that's just how I am, I can't change. I'm a morning person, or I'm a night person, or I'm a night owl, or I'm fill in the blank with anything you can imagine. And we say, that's how I am. It's how I'm wired, that's how I'm built, my whole family's that way, it's my DNA, it's my genetics. And I'm going to say, malarkey. You are what you are because intentionally or unintentionally, that's what you've built. I used to be a night person. I would always stay up and watch The Late Show, and I wouldn't go to bed till midnight, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, because that's what I thought I was. And then I married a morning person. And you can either be married to that person or you can maintain your habits. And obviously, I chose to adapt my habits. So that's a very simple example. But as commonly people, you have infinite ability to change. And what limits us in that is we believe that certain traits are just a part of us, hardwired, and they're not. My mind is too busy. I ask people to meditate, or I ask people to do different things or suggest different things. And this is what the stress victim will often say. My mind's way too busy to meditate, or it's way too busy to go to bed or to go to sleep at a reasonable time. I don't have time. Everybody's battle cry, I don't have time. We all have the same 24 hours, and it amazes me how some people accomplish a block of things in 24 hours that other people can't. And it's, how much time are we wasting on silly things? How much time are we wasting on, you know, our Facebook status and social media? Or how much time are we wasting on old rules that we've devised for ourselves? In order for me to feel good or have success, I have to do this routine every morning, or I have to fill in the blank. And again, all of that is contrived. The successful person that's really productive and happy is willing to redefine the routine at any moment. Redefine what I'm doing, and is it valuable? Are the things I'm spending my time on truly valuable? Okay. I would say when I was much younger, living by myself, not yet married, I had a little bit of OCD, which probably served me very well in school. My attention to detail, that little bit of OCD helped me, okay? And in my personal life, I liked everything perfectly organized. I mean everything, from the spices in my cabinet to the things on my desk. I would make sure that everything was just so, okay? And that occupied a good part of my life. And like I said, there's some benefit to that, but it can be overwhelming. Now you get married and you introduce somebody into your life. God forbid you introduce a child into your life. You can't keep doing that, right? And I see people struggle there. I need things a certain way or it drives me nuts. Well, you can decide to be nuts, or you can decide, maybe I don't need it to be that way. And I very distinctly remember when I made that transition as my life grew and I had a wife and a child. I could choose to either spend time with them enjoying their company in a less orderly world, or I could ignore them and go make sure that everything was in a nice row, okay? And again, that's a plastic part of us. We can modify or change that. But oftentimes we say we don't have time because we're spending too much wasted time on silly things that really don't matter. And nobody can tell you what that is. That's for you to decide, you know, what is needed. We often hear this one, Chelsea and I, you don't understand. And people, look, this is not about pointing fingers and saying you're wrong or you're doing it wrong. It's not about that. It's you looking at yourself. The only person you should ever compare yourself is to a former version of you. Am I getting better? Am I getting stronger? Okay? So when we say, you don't understand, we hear that a lot. You don't understand, I'm busy. I have a lot going on. I'm here to tell you, I see thousands of people throughout my career. Everybody's busy. Everybody feels stressed. Nobody has time. Everybody feels their brain is busy. So recognize that's not unique to any of us. I'll sit with a 12-year-old and hear, I'm really stressed. I feel overwhelmed. You're 12. So understand that's part of something that everybody experiences. But if you really want to improve your life, your situation, you're willing to look at that and say, well, if I feel like I'm overly busy, let's figure out why. Chelsea and I will sometimes talk about those comments and laugh to ourselves. I said, man, I've got to practice. I got 2 kids. I'm busy in my community. We do charity work. I'm really busy, and yet somehow I manage to get in my workouts and get in my diet. So it's a choice. It's a choice. Just catch yourself when you're beginning to make excuses to yourself. And this is a common, you know, my family or my boss or my spouse or the government or Santa Claus just won't let me carry on my life any other way. These are just, when you find yourself saying these things, identify that you're limiting you, okay? Because the net result of all those things is people feel that their life is not what they want it to be. They feel overwhelmed, they feel oppressed, they can often go into despair, I'm anxious, and these are the things. Somebody will tell me, I feel anxious, or I feel depressed, or I feel, you know, I can't sleep because of all the things we just talked about. Everything on that list is self-induced. Run the equation backwards. What is the most important thing to you? Do that first, right? Then what's the next thing? We have these old plays that we run over and over and over again. I'm going to talk briefly about the weight gain victim, because this is because of what we do as a common one. I'm too busy to prepare the right food. Really? You know, we hear that a lot. I don't like to cook, I don't want to cook, I'm just too busy, it can't happen. I prepare the right food. I'm busy, You know, it's something that can happen if it's a priority. If it's not a priority, you're right. But say that. Say preparing the right food is not my priority. I have other things that I think are far more important. And own it. And that's the big thing, I think, today. When we talk about the vision statement, is owning your life and deciding that you are in control. Quit being the victim. Quit sitting in the back seat. Put yourself in the driver's seat. Health food is not convenient. It is. It's amazing. I hear this from a lot of my friends and even patients that travel. And they'll make this statement. Well, I travel, so you know. No, I don't know. What? Well, I travel. You can't eat healthy when you're on the road. You can't? Why not? And I heard that so many times. Well, I do travel. I may not travel every week like some of my business clients, but I travel to speak. 5, 6 times a year, I'm on a plane going to a conference to speak. And I was on one of those trips one time, and I was sitting in the airport. It was some stupid hour, like 6 a.m., sitting in an airport waiting for my flight. And I just looked around and I recognized I'd just gotten a cup of coffee, and on the counter where I got my coffee were bananas and nuts. Those are whole foods. And as I sat there, right across from me was one of those standard, places that sells magazines and candy and soda pop. But they also had this big refrigeration section where they had fresh salads and fresh fruit. That's whole food. And right next to it was a sign for a little restaurant that was advertising bacon and eggs. That's whole food. And I noticed in that moment that I had access to ample amounts of whole food, and here I was in an airport. It wasn't hard. So my question to myself was, how come I was able to see that and some of my clients couldn't? Because I was looking for it. I was aware of it. I was conscious. It's a part of my lifestyle. If the only thing I'm familiar with or aware of is McDonald's and French fries and those kinds of things, that's what I'll see, right? What kind of car do you drive, right? Think about it right now. If you drive a Jeep Cherokee, didn't you notice when you first bought that Jeep Cherokee how many other Jeep Cherokees were suddenly on the road that you never noticed before? Or if you're a Toyota person, how many Toyota Camrys are on the road? Because we identify that. That's a part of us. And we now see that, and we're now looking for it. And so we see them. If I'm looking for Whole Foods, they're right there under our nose. We can walk right out here and go right up down Montgomery Road and find Whole Foods. So when we say, well, I travel, therefore it's not there, or healthy food's not convenient, it's right in front of us if we train our brains to look for it. There you go. I travel, so eating right's impossible. No, it's not. I don't have time to go to the gym. You have 24 hours in a day. If the gym's important, it happens, right? Yesterday, Friday, it's Friday, it's the end of the week. I get home, it's about 4 o'clock, and at the end of a week on Friday, you're not thinking, how can I work out? You're thinking, gee, am I going to have a beer with the boys? Am I going to go out and do something? Am I going to relax? But I knew it was important to me to get my workout in. I didn't want to. I did not want to go exercise. I didn't feel like it. But I also knew if I didn't, I would be unhappy with myself. And we talked last week about engaging discomfort, right? And engaging discomfort means doing things that don't necessarily feel comfortable at the time. And so I did. I went and did my workout, got a good sweat, felt great about it, right? Do I do that every Friday? No. There are times I knuckle under. But my point in this is there is always time to find time to go exercise. Plan it in your day. I always regain the weight after being on a diet, so, why bother? Why changing my diet? Why change? And again, these are just things that we say to ourselves that are false. They're false. We believe them, but they're false. Trying to avoid bread is too hard. I just can't. I had one person tell me, life is not worth living without bread. Like, okay, that's a belief. It's not a truth. If I put you on a deserted island, but there were plenty of berries and plants and the occasional pig, you would learn to enjoy those foods and just be happy you had food, right? And there's no bread, there's no grain. You're not harvesting grains and there's no oven to bake bread. But you would be happy just to have food. You ever watched that show Survivor? I don't anymore, but when it first came out, it was a curiosity my wife and I would watch. And it was amazing, right? These people would catch a fish and be ecstatic. We had fish. And it was amazing what they would find to eat. Finding that greater appreciation for just having food and not lamenting that it has to be between two big pieces of bread. I entertain, go to restaurants a lot, so it's too hard. Restaurants are there to feed you what you want to eat. If you know what you want to eat and you ask for it, they will provide it. I don't like vegetables, I don't like water. I laugh because it's like saying I don't like air, right? These are the basic elements. My whole family is fat. That's just my normal. And so we accept that. We accept that that's just who we are. I would have to give up all the fun stuff, all the fun stuff. When we begin to look at M&Ms and bread and brownies as the fun food and the other stuff is ugh, then yeah, we're going to gravitate toward it. We're going to talk later about the craving brain and why we see it that way. But if you begin to define your food differently, and like Chelsea's favorite fun food is cucumbers and salad and carrots. I know this because I see her eating it all the time, right? And to me, that is fun food because it makes me feel good. It keeps me lean. It keeps my brain sharp. It allows me to go exercise. So to me, that is the fun food. Flavor it in a way that tastes good. And I get what you're saying. I get what anybody would say. Yeah, but M&Ms spike our pleasure centers. That's what they're really saying. Or certain foods spike our pleasure centers. That's true. That's true. But when we start to define that as the fun food, we're in trouble. So I point all these things out because none of these are true unless you decide they're true. And if they are true, it defines what you're going to do, what you're going to become. So everything in your present is the result of past thinking. Whether you're in good health or bad health, whether you feel good or don't feel good, whether you're happy or sad. Everything currently right now is a result of past thinking. It does not predict what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month. And at any moment in time, if you change your thinking, you change your belief system, your future begins to morph dramatically. You ever seen movies where they go back in time and one element was changed, one thing? Remember Back to the Future? And toward the end of the movie, it's been so long since I've seen it, but because he went into the future, or went back in time, remember McFly and his mother and all that, and he had an impact, when he came back to the present, the whole present was different because things he did back there changed his future, right? You've seen movies like that. So understanding that wherever you are right now, it's common for people to feel stuck. I'm in a rut. My mood is not good. My life is not good. But just recognize at any moment in time, today, in specifics, today, tomorrow can be vastly different if you choose to change this. So we talk about paradigms. Paradigms are just a set of rules that we've made up. They're not true. They're just the rules that we've chosen to believe, right? One of the rules in my paradigm might be, well, you know, I'm not a very fast runner, so I can't make the soccer team. Or I'm too short, so I can't be on the basketball team. Remember Tiny Nate Archibald, one of the greatest NBA players of all time? Very short. He didn't have that in his paradigm. So our paradigms are just rules that we give ourselves, and a lot of times that list of rules is garbage, absolute garbage. But it's in our brain, and our paradigm is there to kind of protect us. Like in this case, the person in the bubble, part of their paradigm, and I hope this is part of yours, is that drugs are bad. I'm never going to do drugs because they're bad. And if that's my paradigm, that's my belief system, and somebody approaches me with drugs, they can't get inside my thought process, right? Because I go, no, I reject that. That's where paradigms can serve us, right? Or what maybe part of that paradigm is I exercise every day because it keeps me vital and young and lean, all right? But sometimes our paradigms are full of really bad rules that we own, that we live by, and then somebody comes up with a great option or solution. We go, no, I can't do that because I don't like vegetables. I can't do that because fill in the blank, I don't have time. My brain's too busy, right? And we start seeing all the limitations. We start seeing where we are stuck, and we believe we're stuck. So just as that bubble can save us and protect us, it can also keep us prisoner if we have bad rules. Be willing to wipe out any of those rules at any time. This is your paradigm, and we hang on to it. It's our belief about what our life is, and if you think that's black and white, if you think that's hardwired DNA, you're wrong. 1,000% wrong. That paradigm, your belief system, can change infinitely at a moment's notice your whole life. That's powerful, because if we have beliefs that are disabling us, get rid of them, change them. One of the things we talked about last time was David Goggins' book. I love this book. I love this guy. Never met him. Maybe he's not awesome. But his book and his message and his life story and what he's trying to relay is awesome. And it's helped me because it's helped me remove some of my own paradigms about exercise and about what's possible. All right? This guy's done unbelievable things. So hopefully you take the time with all the things we're presenting. To go look at David Goggins' book. It's amazing. But it's just that notion that here I am, I've exercised my whole life, I have a lot of good healthy habits. But reading Goggins' book took it to a new level. He allowed me to get rid of some of the things, like in the past I would have said, well, you shouldn't exercise one body part 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row because that's bad. That's wrong. It's not necessarily true. So I'm willing to let go of my paradigm at any point in time. We're going to talk about how the brain works. I'm not sure I want to know how his brain works, but we're going to talk about how your brain works. What I'm about to give you, this is how the brain structures your own paradigm. And if you know that, then you can crack the code and you can begin to go in there and rewire it any way that you want, okay? And that's what this is all about. You know where you are. You know your beliefs. Nobody knows them better than you. And all I want to do is give you the tools that you can rewire them any way you want. I don't think I'm a good dancer. In fact, I think I'm a pretty lousy dancer. My wife likes to make fun when I'll dance in the kitchen, and I'll dance really dorky, especially dorky, okay? But I do believe, in my heart of hearts, if I chose to go become a good dancer, I'll bet you I could, right? If I dedicated myself to it, I could. It's not my priority, so it's not on my list. But that applies to any part of our life. Here's what happens. Our conscious mind, based on what we see and taste and touch and smell, our life experience, we make rational decisions. This is good or this is bad. We accept it or we reject it, okay? Remember the guy, Jim Jones, was it, and the Kool-Aid, and I don't know, there was hundreds of people, and the whole story brainwashed them to believe that a spaceship was going to come and take them to a better place, and we're going to take this poison and leave our earthly bodies for this other awesome experience, all right? Kathy, would you sign up for that trip? I wouldn't, okay? I point that out, though, because here were theoretically, logically thinking people, but through a very persuasive argument, they were convinced to go do this horrendous act because they believed it. And what happened in that moment is their conscious mind looked at the information and either at that time had to reject it or accept it, and their mind accepted it. Once their conscious mind accepted it, the subconscious mind has no say in whether it's right or wrong, up or down, left or right, true or false. The subconscious mind dutifully accepts it and plays that thought over and over and over again 24 hours a day, okay? And that subconscious belief is what you act on. I tell people all the time, don't use willpower to try to change your life. Willpower will fade. It will weaken. It will not work in the long run. Willpower is a short-term tool. You really want to change your life? Change your beliefs, because you will function and behave in a way that you believe, right? I don't personally smoke crack cocaine because I have a belief that says that's nasty stuff. It will hurt me. It offers me nothing in the long run. I don't want any of that ever, okay? And that's a belief. And so my risk of smoking crack cocaine is exceedingly low. I also have a belief that says McDonald's French fries are man-made garbage. They're poison, toxins, and they have no place in my body. The odds of me having a McDonald's French fry is on par with my chances of ever smoking crack cocaine, because they're in the same file. Crap I will never do, okay? So once we consciously accept a belief, it can be right or wrong, but if we believe it, and we give it to the subconscious mind is a dutiful slave. It takes it and goes, okay, thank you. So if I say, I think McDonald's French fries are awesome, the subconscious mind writes down, oh, okay, French fries, awesome, we'll eat them every chance we get. And so when you're driving down the road and you see McDonald's and your subconscious mind says, oh, McDonald's French fries are awesome, you make a hard right into that drive-thru because it's part of your belief system. You believe it's okay. You may not even believe they're awesome, but that they're okay. You know, you can have those. So everything you do in your life, and look, not everybody wants to be a Spartan. Not everybody wants to be rigorous in their diet and their exercise. That's your choice. That's your choice, okay? But once you take on a conscious belief and you hand it over to the subconscious mind, it is going to drive and decide what happens to your body. That's how you build a belief, right? I know Kathy likes to come and meditate on Thursday nights with us. And so at some point in her life, you didn't always meditate, right? But somebody presented an idea and hopefully a little bit of evidence, and you went, that sounds interesting. I think I want to adopt that habit. That was your conscious mind deciding to accept that I'm going to give this a go, right? And you handed it over to your subconscious mind, so probably on a daily basis, your little checklist percolates to the top. Hey, have you meditated today? That's a belief. I'm going to go do that. That's how we do things. That's why we do things, good things or bad things. Sometimes our belief system says, my life is so stressful. Oh, at the end of the day, I need chocolate ice cream and a glass of bourbon. I have to have that, otherwise my body will fall into decay. I need that. I've earned it. If that's your belief system, then you're going to go get that, okay? So, if we understand how it works, we can change it. We're just showing how it works. So, everything we experience in our outside world, the conscious mind experiences it, tastes it and touches it, and then decides if it wants to give it to the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind is the king at choosing what's going to happen, okay? It can accept or reject anything. It originates and creates everything, but the subconscious mind has no other ability other than to accept it. But once it's accepted, think of it as a videotape that just plays 24 hours a day. You're sleeping and your brain goes, McDonald's French fries are awesome, they're awesome, they're awesome, okay? That's kind of how our brain works. Right now, to give you an example, we are right here. This is the conscious mind. We're talking, we're having an interaction, an engagement, and your conscious mind is right here. But your subconscious mind is huge. And what's it doing? It's playing all the videotapes that you stored there, okay? Let me give you an example. So this is our consciousness. That whole yellow field is our subconscious. What if this is programmed into your subconscious mind? Age has nothing to do with it. How would that affect your desire to take on certain tasks? My ability to assimilate information is instantaneous. I'm very creative. My ability to create solutions is endless. I always get results. I am a determined individual who looks at challenges as opportunities to prove myself, and on and on and on. What if we had taken the time in our life to install these kind of beliefs? How would I behave on a day-to-day basis if this was my subconscious belief system? How would I behave if I had beliefs, well, you know, I'm 52 years old and I'm too old to be, you know, running 5 miles. That's too far. And, you know, I don't like vegetables and I'm too old to learn how to like vegetables. And water's boring. My belief is water's boring. Therefore, I'm going to go get Crystal Light and I'm going to go get fill in the blank. You understand? So everything we do is simply a belief based on something that happened in the past. We can change any of these at any time. Most of the beliefs that I currently hold have changed over the last decades, right? And we're going to talk about how to do that in just a minute. So I just want you to understand what you're doing is based on your beliefs. You're based on the rules that you've put in your subconscious mind, and you can change those. I am able to restore my body daily with gloriously rewarding sleep. What if that was in your belief system? Would you go to bed on time? Probably. Would you fall asleep more deeply? Probably, because you have a belief that you are. Go ahead.
That slide.
You want that slide?
Yeah.
I will get that slide for you. Okay? All right. So, just again, if we're going to reprogram our mind, our subconscious mind, we have these ideas and thoughts and images, and they're going to affect our results. They're going to affect our body. But it has to happen under these rules. It has to be repetitive. We have to believe it. We have to say it with passion and expectancy. Here's a bad example of that. I believe that I will be a rock star. I have a belief that I am a rock star. What are the odds of me becoming a rock star? Not high. But if every day I get impassioned by it, I go, man, I was born to be a rock star. I'm going to practice my guitar. I can see it. I can envision it. I know it. I can feel it in my bones, right? There's that passion. And if I believe it, truly believe it in my bones, and I repeat it to myself over and over and over again, I am going to be on Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year show. That's what has to happen for us to change beliefs. There has to be passion. There has to be a belief in it. We can't just say outlandish things, not repeat it, not get passionately involved and expect it to creep into our subconscious mind. It's not going to happen. So let's learn how. Let's get into this. Very simple question. Ronnie, you see that nice glass? It's full to the brim, right? Can I put anything else in that glass?
It seems like you can put a little bit more.
I can put a little bit more? Okay. All right. I want you to look at that glass and say, it is full. But what's it full of? We're going to say that glass is full of our disabling beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't. It's too hard. Okay? And then these are all the empowering beliefs we wish we had. I wish I had a belief that said, vegetables are awesome. Water is glorious. Exercise, I love it. I wish I had those beliefs. If I simply took those beliefs with passion and repetitively dumped them into that glass, what would have to happen? What would have to happen? If I'm entering these beliefs that I want into that glass that's full, little by little by little, by default, I have to push the old beliefs out. They got to leave, right? And so if I did this every day, repetition, over and over, with passion and belief and consistency, what happens to my brain in a week, in a month, in 6 months, right? Ultimately, I've changed who I am. I've changed my belief system. I'm going to give you the clearest example of that from my own life. And I've told this story many, many times. I grew up with two parents that I love. They're beautiful people. But my mom in particular was a very judgmental person, very judgmental. Everybody got judged within an inch of their life within 2 seconds of meeting her. She'd size you up in 30 seconds. You'd walk away and she'd report what was wrong with you and what she thought of that. Okay? That's just her MO. It's how she operated. She probably got it from her mother. So guess what happened to me as a teen? That's how I was, right? I looked at everything in a binary fashion. Good, bad, up, down, black, white. I judged things harshly to my standard and quickly. And you know what that led to? Problems. It created problems in my life. I'm in my early 20s, and that habit is difficult to be with, right? If you have a friend like that, it creates problems in your relationships, it creates problems even with your work. And I saw that about myself, and I went, ooh, that's kind of ugly. I don't like that. And so instead of judging things, because I always thought that I was right? He's lazy, she's fat, he's nice, he's an idiot. I thought that I was right? What was that? That's the ego. Ego bigger than Texas. And I began to realize this is really ugly. I don't like this. I want to change this. And so what I did was, you have to take that negative, that I'm right and everybody's wrong and I judge, and you have to come up with a different way, a different videotape that you're going to replace, okay? And through reading and understanding some of the books that I've given you, I decided my new template was that Jesus Christ lives within everybody. He's in there. And it's my job when I meet anybody to bring that out, to foster that love. That's my new MO. Instead of judging, my job is to find spirituality within you and promote it. Okay? That's a very different mindset. But that's how I live my life today. I used to always meet strangers, and now I never do. Because everybody I meet, I already know them. I know that they're good. I know they have goodness in them. And if I'm kind and altruistic and benevolent, that will foster. That will come out of them. And we're going to have a really good time together, right? That's my MO. But it was through repetition. You think I don't fall into the judgmental category every once in a blue moon? Doesn't happen very much anymore. But it took some months and years probably to really get that out, so that my natural standing operating MO is happy to meet you. What can we do together? Okay? So, and again, a little snippet from my own life, because I think that's real. I think we all have that ugliness inside of us in some capacity. And the question is, are we willing to change it? Do we want to change it? So, repetition, faith, and expectancy. If you want to change an ideal, you have to do those three things with passion, right? That's why I got this big flaming heart. Any negative thought can be purged and replaced through repetition. Get excited about it. Get passionate about it. Get committed to it. Pick one thing. We're going to do our goal and vision statement here in the next 20 minutes. I want you to get jacked up, excited, goofy, silly, giddy about what your life can be based on what changes you want to make to it. First, we got to go find our demons. We all have them. We have negative thoughts. We have negative ideologies. We got to find them. We got to target them. It's no different than hunting down criminals and putting them behind bars. We got to purge them from our system. So I want you to begin. We're going to take a minute here, and we're going to outline our own personal paradigm. We're going to just take a few short minutes to do so. I want you to pick one or two issues, traits, beliefs, or rules that you have within you that you don't like. It can be anything on any platform. I can't lose weight. Stress is killing me. Anger management. It can be anything you can think of that you know plays in your head as a part of your paradigm that you just don't like. And you would like to put it in a cage and throw it in the garbage forever, okay? So my rules that limit me, these are just examples. Any kind of self-sabotaging behavior, like I get up and I intend to work out, but I don't. Or I know I shouldn't eat candy right before bed, but I have a bowl of ice cream every night. Destructive behaviors that you have. We all have some destructive behaviors that we can make better. I'm not suggesting that you be perfect, but I'm suggesting pick one or two things and begin to target it, because we're going to blow that thing to smithereens. Self-limiting beliefs or thoughts. Understanding or undesirable habits or experience. Okay? So, in your book, find this page, Understanding Your Present Paradigm. We're going to take 3 minutes. Actually, I may limit that to 2 minutes. I don't want to run over today. We're going to take 2 minutes, and here's what I want you to do. We're going to take 2 minutes. I want you to write down every negative, bad, undesirable trait that you can think of, okay? Known disabling beliefs, sabotaging behaviors, insecurities. Insecurities is a good one. Personal habits that are disabling you or slowing you down. Anything you have, I want you to start writing it, and I want your pen to keep moving. If your pen stops, make it move. Just keep writing. Ready, get set, and go. And these don't even have to be full sentences or full thoughts. Maybe it's just a word. Maybe it's a person. Or just even a feeling. I get jealous too often. Or think, how have these things limited me? How have they held me back? What do I not have because of these traits? Okay, begin to wrap it up. At the end of today, I'm going to encourage you to go home and revisit this exercise and take time. Find a nice quiet place, really explore. I'm going to work out later on this afternoon, and while I'm working out, I love to just let my mind wander, and this is something I continually do. You're never a perfectly formed beast. There's always room for improvement. Enjoy that process. It's empowering, okay? So we found some of our negative thinking, perhaps, or negative qualities. And this quote from Henry Ford, Chelsea throws this at me all the time, and I'm so tired of hearing it. No, I'm kidding. It's whether you think you can or you think you can't. You're right on anything. As long as you tell yourself, I can do that. I can run a marathon. You can. But if you say, oh, I can't, here come the excuses, right? You know, because I have that knee issue, and it's just stupid anyway, and it doesn't matter, and whether you think you can, you think you can't, you're always correct. I have people come up to me when I suggest something, and they'll, oh, I can't meditate, and here's why. And my common response is, you're right, you can't. Everybody else can, but you can't, because you just told me why. I don't argue with them, I agree with them. So, let's talk about goals and vision. So, goals are just smaller little steps on a way to a vision. To have a goal is perfectly fine, but the goal is not the end point. A goal is just a step. You put a lot of steps together, you elevate. You don't jump from the first floor to the second floor. You make small, gradual improvements, and then you arrive in a whole different experience. And that's what we're going to talk about, goal setting versus a vision statement. So, a goal without a plan is just a timeline. Or without a timeline, it's just a wish. This gal has a time when she wants to arrive at the top of that peak, right? And she brought all her needed supplies, and she has a vision of what's going to happen in that. Here's some weak goals. I want to lose some weight. It's too weak. There's no numbers. There's no definition. It's not going to happen. That's a wish, right? I want to be a millionaire. Can you become a millionaire? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you make a plan and give it a timeline and become committed to it, you absolutely can. I want to date Emma Stone. Now, I used to have Angelina Jolie, but I realized that was dated, so you know I had to update my slide, and I had to even look up who Emma Stone was. I looked up who are popular actresses, right? So I want to give you a ludicrous example, but I want to date Emma Stone. All right? That's ridiculous. You can't do that. Well, let's make a plan. I'm going to go to California on July 12th. Yeah, it's easy enough to do. I'm going to buy a map of the movie stars' homes. I'm going to find Emma Stone's home. I'm going to sit in the bushes outside her home from 8 to 10 in the morning and 5 to 7 in the evening. I'm going to do that every day for 2 weeks. I'm going to track her every movement, and I'm going to force an interaction by August 1st. You may say that's twisted, but it's possible. I'm going to at least meet her. Okay? And I'm going to tell my brother to keep some bail money handy. My point in this is, you would say that's ludicrous that I'm going to go meet or date Emma Stone. But if you make a plan, it suddenly becomes viable. It suddenly seems, at least peripherally, possible. Here's the thing with goals. Goals have to have details, right? If you have detail, firm detail, and if you have a timeline, and if you have an action plan, and you have to write it down. Harvard studies, Yale. A Yale study showed that when you write down a given goal, you're 70% more likely to accomplish it just by the act of writing it down. And when you begin to add detail and numbers, how much, how soon, how often, when you write numbers, now you're starting, because your brain can see it. Your brain begins to believe it. Your brain cannot tell the difference between visualizing something and actually doing something. They've done that experiment. They had basketball players in 3 groups. In one group, they said for 30 minutes a day, you're going to go practice your free throws, okay? Another group, you're not going to get off the bench. You're just going to sit for 30 minutes and visualize yourself throwing free throws. And the other group, you're not going to do anything. And then they did that for a short period of time, and they brought them all back, and they had them actually go practice for free throws. Well, guess what? The group that did nothing, their percentage of hitting their free throws didn't change. The group that practiced their free throws, their accuracy improved by like 90%. And the group that didn't practice but just visualized it, their percentage improvement was about 85%. That's almost as good as actually doing it. And they didn't do any of it, but they saw it in their mind. So this has been shown time and time again in different studies. Our brain, when we actively visualize something and believe it, it can't tell the difference between that visualization and the real thing. So when we write down a goal and we make it real, we give it tangible texture and flavor and color, we give it a timeline, we give it passion, our brain begins to just assume that's the way it is, okay? So ideally you have a pro-con list, you know, what would happen, what would come to me if I did this, what would I miss out on if I didn't do this, but the more vivid and alive you make it, the more likely it's going to happen. There's a little acronym called SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound, meaning it has a timeline. And when they say realistic, that's very subjective, isn't it? And I think by unrealistic, it would be, I'm going to become, a billionaire in 6 months. You're probably not, right? But I really don't like putting limits on goals. And I think when it says attainable and realistic, I really like to blow that up. I don't like putting limits in that space. Let me give you an example of a little more realistic. Goal is to eat more vegetables. Chelsea tells that to people all the time. So what if I gave a definitive number and I say, I want you to eat 5 servings of vegetable. I want you to accomplish it over 4 weeks. And I want you to do it. Here's the reason, is because you'll be healthier. Your blood pressure will go down and your weight will go down. All right. You say, all right, here's what I'm going to do. Every Saturday, I'm going to try 1 new vegetable when I go to the market. That's not hard, right? That's very, very easy to do. I'm going to add a small amount of vegetable to my breakfast. People roll their eyes or furrow their brow when I say put vegetable in my breakfast. But yeah, okay, I'm going to put my scrambled eggs over a bed of spinach. Or I'm going to have some celery and carrot sticks with my eggs, or. Very easy, right? Fairly manageable. I'm going to eat cucumbers and carrots dipped in hummus as a snack. That sounds downright delicious. And it's very simple and very doable. And I'm always going to try to get 2 vegetables with dinner. That's my new credo. With dinner, I'm going to have 2 vegetables, 2 different kinds, all right? And I'm going to have a side salad with lunch. Everything there is very manageable. Everything there is very doable. And all of a sudden, we've accomplished our goal. But we did it because we wrote down a specific plan, we had a timeline, and we had numbers, all right? So find this page in your book. We're going to go on to do goal setting. We're going to spend maybe just 2 minutes. Here's what I want you to do. First of all, no limits. Stop limiting yourself. Let your brain go crazy. I want you to think of, what do you want in your life? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to have? Physically, mentally, spiritually, that's a tall order. We're not going to accomplish it all in 2 minutes. And I want you to really focus on what you want to be. Because if you become who you want to be, you can pretty much have or do anything. All right? No limits. Go for it. Start writing down everything that you would like to see in your life. Think about relationship goals or goals within your spirituality. Personality characteristics, and there's no shame in wanting material things. I want a certain car or a certain piece of jewelry. That's all part of life. And for now, maybe just capture 1-word phrases and go back and color it in later. And if you don't write it down right now, you can never have it. Let your brain take on that. If I don't write it down right now, I can never, ever have it. Okay, we're going to wrap that up for now. You're going to go back to that later on today and begin to extend that and expand it. And what you're going to find is, if you're doing this properly, and you're really identifying your demons, and you're beginning to identify your goals, you're going to feel an inner excitement. You're going to feel your passion start to percolate a little bit. Oh my gosh, I can be anything. Okay? And if one of your demons is, oh, I'm always anxious and nervous, ask yourself why. Begin to explore that with curiosity and decide, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be infinitely optimistic. All right? So, this is a huge topic that we're smashing into 1 hour, but we're going to get through it, and you can unfold this and unpack this more at home. Now we're going to talk about vision. So we've identified demons, we've identified some of our goals, little mini steps, but now we want to get to our full vision. And our full vision is our most unbelievable vision of what our life could be in total, everything to perfection, right? And perfection we know doesn't really exist, but for the purpose of our vision, you're going to envision a life so amazing that you tingle with excitement. You can't wait to step into that. This is going to be awesome, right? Because it's right there. It's right through this door if you define the door and define the vision and step into it. It's that close to you. And so many people go their whole life with limits, limiting them from really experiencing this amazing existence because they didn't think it was possible. They wouldn't let themselves think it was possible. But that's what our vision is, our most amazing existence, something that makes us giggle with joy, amazing expression of all of my potential coming together in one complete picture, complete perfection. That's what we're looking for. Now, when we write our vision statement, it's always written in the first person, I am, in the present tense, always positive and never with limits. When I say always positive, I'm going to give you some examples of that right now. Here are poor examples of a vision statement. I will strive to be more mindful and decisive. The problem is I will strive, right? You ever see those company statements? We strive to be number one. They're never going to be number one. They're always going to be striving. You write your vision statement as right now it is, in this moment, active and real. I am mindful and decisive. I enjoy my capacity to be mindful and decisive. Not someday I will be. It's not about someday. It is right now, always in the present tense. To become more open to new ideas. Again, the problem there is I want to become. We tend to do that to ourselves. Well, someday I'm going to run a marathon, or one day I hope to fill in the blank. No, right now I am. I am the most benevolent millionaire in the state of Ohio. And you go, well, that's just a lie. No, it's not. It's your vision. Because if you believe that, do you think you will make decisions? If I get up every day saying that, oh, throw me a bone, Ronnie. What would I wake up saying to myself that maybe isn't true in the truest sense right now, but it's what I strive to be? I am the best doctor in the whole state of Ohio, okay? If I get up every day with that belief, how do you think I will behave? What kind of decisions would I make? If that is my mindset, I'm going to be very open and very engaged in what I'm doing because I believe I am the absolute number one physician, okay? Do that to anything. I am the best mother. I am the most amazing carpenter, engineer, whatever it is. But we want to state things in a very positive text. I will stop being frantic and angry. Why is that a problem? Because it's not positive. In order for me to stop being frantic and angry, I have to think about frantic and angry. Don't think about a purple elephant. What are you thinking about? I told you not to think of a purple elephant. So when we state negatives, we have to conjure them in our brain. And remember, our brain can't tell illusion or envisioned from real. So I don't want to have a vision statement with frantic and angry. What would be a better way to say that? I will stop being frantic and angry is I have a wonderful mindset. I am happy all day long. I have plenty of time to accomplish all the fantastic things that I engage in. Okay? Any way you want to word it, but always in a positive, optimistic vernacular. We cannot pick negatives. I want to be debt-free. Well, I have to think about debt. You know, here's a way of being debt-free. Sell everything you have today. You will be debt-free. All right? You may be homeless, but you'll be debt-free. Instead, I am financially independent. I have ample means to accomplish the things that I want to do in my life. That's how we write a vision statement. And I want to stop wasting time. Again, wasting time is a negative. I want to, meaning in someday in the future, but also instead, I am very effective. I get many things done in my day with ease and joy, okay? Adding those definitions in is very helpful. This is just an example. This is just a generic example. And you typically start these vision statements with, I am grateful and happy now that I begin to fill in the blank. I'm so happy and grateful now because if you say that out loud, you're happy and grateful because you just told yourself you were. That I have taken back control of my life and directing it to serve the desires and fulfill my goals. You can have all different subcategories. I have a vision statement for work. I have a vision statement for all different components of my life, and sometimes I squish them all together, and sometimes I separate them. I crave healthy vegetables and clean water as it invigorates me and flushes poisons out of me continually. If that's a part of my vision statement and I repeat it on a daily basis, it becomes a belief. Exercise. My love of physical activity as a source of energy and reflects my zest for life and abundance. Discomfort is my friend. I love that part. I've added that since I heard Goggins. Mind. My sense of calm and confidence fills the room and impacts others in a positive way. I am a kind and patient listener. That's the opposite of judgmental, right? So that's in there intentionally. So that's just an example of what a vision statement begins to feel like. You're defining who you are in all different components of your life. And if you write this with passion, and this is something, by the way, that you are never done with. Your vision statement is never perfect, right? The 80% rule really, really applies here, meaning you're going to put it down, you're going to look at it, and every day you're going to reread it, and every other day you're going to begin to add a sentence, or take a sentence out, or change it, or color it, or add more passion. You want this to be a vivid movie in your brain that you cannot wait to just step into that. There is nothing that stops you from being everything on that page. Nothing. And once you've written it, and you're salivating, and you can't wait to do that, be that, live that, feel that, you're going to start reflecting everything on that page. That makes sense? Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to do as we prepare to write our vision statement. First, we're going to go back to our paradigms page, and we're going to pick 3 to 5 things at most. Maybe you only pick 2 or 3 bad things you want to change. Okay? Remember that paradigms page? Things about myself I don't like. Maybe I'm impatient. Maybe I'm narrow-minded. Maybe whatever it is. Just pick 2 or 3 of them because we're going to take those sentences and we're going to convert them into positive ones. All right? And we're going to pick 3 or 5 things from our goals list. Not the whole list, just a few things. And we're going to take those 2 things and begin to fashion a vision statement incorporating those thoughts. Make sense? So write a few of those things down. And here's what we want to do. We want to take any self-limiting thoughts or beliefs from our paradigms page, and we have to put it through the converter, right? The converter turns it into a positive statement. The example I gave earlier. I'm a very judgmental person. I am harsh on people around me. That was my paradigm. And I turned it into Jesus Christ lives within every human being, and it's my job to pull it out. You can do that right now. Just think of the conversion you'd want to make of those negative statements. I'm a horrible procrastinator. And you change it to first person, present tense, positive. I accomplish tasks in the moment on an ongoing basis, and it brings me joy to do so, or something along that line. You want to make it exciting. You want to make it something you want to engage in. All right? All right. This is from Carl Jung. There can be no transforming of darkness into light and of apathy into movement without emotion. You may not be able to conjure it up in this very short window we have here this morning, but when you're home and alone and writing your vision statement, it needs to be full of passion. It needs to be full of color and excitement, okay? So, grab that page, and if you haven't started already, go ahead and get ready to start. We're going to give ourselves just 2 or 3 minutes, just get a flavor of it. You're going to go home later on today and embellish it. But go ahead and start. First person, positive statements, no limits. How do you see your life fully actualized?
We're right at the hour mark. I know you said you wanted me to tell you.
Thank you very much. Are you doing this exercise with me?
Yeah.
waking up. Keep writing. Don't let that pen stop. Let's wrap it up. And again, the goal is this is just putting your toe in the pond, all right? I want you to really go home today and declare for yourself right now when and where you're going to complete this exercise. Right now, today, all right? Tell yourself, hey, at 2 o'clock in the living room, at 1 o'clock at my desk, or wherever it is, promise yourself you're going to go back and revisit this when you have time and begin to color it in. And then when you're done with it, here's what I recommend. Everybody has an iPhone or some variant of that. On there is a simple recording device. You're familiar with that? Okay. On your phone, you have voice memos. And here's a little habit that I have found helpful through the years. Go in there and program it, right? Record your own voice. I am so happy and grateful now. And then read your vision statement right into your phone. And then what I do is I have a number of them, some long, some short, okay? Whoops. That's the wrong one. I had a generic one for here. I am so happy and grateful now that I have taken back control of my life, and I am directing it to serve my desires and fulfill my goals. I have an amazing capacity to feel calm and energetic all day long. Okay, so that's just a generic one I recorded for this demonstration. But what I do with that, I have my own personal one that I plug it into my car as I'm driving to work, and I play it every morning on my way to work to remind myself of who I am, who I see myself being, what do I aspire to be. When you're first starting to do this, play it again at lunchtime, play it again at dinner time, play it again before you go to bed. The whole idea is, if you really believe in this vision, if this is really who you see yourself being, You've got to program that into your subconscious mind through belief, repetition, and passion. This really works. This really does change the platform on which you make decisions, okay? One of my favorites of all time, Muhammad Ali, was a lot smarter than people made him out to be. This is one of his quotes, right? And I have this in my closet. I look at this every single day of my life. Every morning I get up and I read this. Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it. Doesn't that conjure up people in your life right now? People that say you can't and that won't work and they're negative Nellies in your life? Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. It's impossible, all the way down to impossible is nothing. You decide what's real. You decide what's possible. And anybody that gets in your way that says, that can't be done, you exclude them from your thinking process. When we invite that negative thinking in, it will limit you from your best experience. When I transitioned out of emergency medicine to what I currently do, it was a huge turning point in my life. I loved emergency medicine. It was awesome. It was very satisfying. But what I currently do is so much more gratifying. And there's so many blessings that have come to me because of making that transition. And when I went to make it, 9 out of 10 people that were my friends, colleagues, associates said, that's stupid. One of the most significant moves in my life, most of my friends would have said, you're an idiot, don't do that, okay? I point that out not because they're wrong and I was right. I point that out because you will face that same challenge, all right? If you believe it's worth doing, go do it. Quit telling yourself, I can't and it won't work and here's 27 reasons why. If you believe it deserves attention, if you believe it's worth doing, go do it. Don't worry about the whys. Don't figure out the finances. It's nice to go into it with your head up and thinking about what are the potential problems. But if you believe it in your heart that it has to occur, just go do it. Figure it out. All right? So here's your assignment. I want you to go home. I want you to finish your vision statement today, and I want you to commit to yourself. Don't commit to me. Commit to yourself that you're going to read it and review it with passion at least 3 times a day. Put it in your sock drawer, hide it somewhere. It's yours, it's personal. But pull it out 3 times a day and either hear the recording or read it. Or I'll tell you what, one of my favorite things to do is have my vision statement either on my phone or in my hand and walk through the woods and just taking in nature and solitude and quiet and say it out loud. Say it out loud like you believe it, like you are announcing it to the world. I am. There's power in that because your brain's listening, right? There's also power in, oh, that won't work. Yeah, that sounds silly. That sounds weird. That's weird. There's power in that too. The power to destroy, the power to keep you where you are, all right? Do it with expectation, take action, live with faith. Hope is weak, live with faith. With that, we're going to take a quick potty break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the craving mind, all right? Right across the hall. Okay. Go out this door. driving. All right, so it's quarter after the hour. This is probably about a 25 to 30-minute discussion, so we are going to go a little bit over. If you need to leave for any particular reason, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you do that. For those that are watching at home, hopefully you'll see it through to the end. I want to present an idea. This is a strategy. There's a guy named Judson Brewer. I'm going to present to you in a very short synopsis the generalities of his work. Because he's PhD, MD, does research, and he's all about, he's very much into meditation and mindfulness, but how can we use those as tools to change our brain? And he came up with a strategy that's been shown to be twice as effective as gold standard therapy for getting people to stop smoking. So we're going to talk about habits in general, cravings in particular, and this is a strategy that can work very well to help us with some of our disabling habits. Because oftentimes, we've talked last week about the voice in our head as our ego. And the voice in our head tells us all kind of crazy things, and we can choose to believe it or not. And one of the things it might say is, your day was so hard. Oh my gosh, how'd you get through it? You deserve fill in the blank. I need alcohol to just calm my nerves. I need food because I've earned this reward. And so we create addictions to alcohol, food, gambling, and even sex as rewards to ourselves for having endured such an arduous journey, right? But they're temporary relief. They're distractions. They're distractions for us. They give us pleasure. But everything there, is anything there truly happiness? We're going to talk about happiness next week. There's nothing there that's happiness. You don't get happiness from a cookie. You don't get happiness from alcohol. You get a pleasurable sensation, but pleasure and happiness are different. And the problem with these habits is the first time you have it, the stimulus is this big, and every time you engage it, the reward gets a little less and a little less and a little less, right? So that's the difference between pleasures and happiness. When we have pleasures, it tends to be things, or addictions, they're things that we tend to go to time and time again, but the more we engage them, the less reward we get from it over time. But our brain is developing that pattern because that's what we did, right? There was a trigger and then a behavior and then a reward assigned. Remember the conscious mind. Our conscious mind said, oh, I ate that cookie. Oh, that felt good. And the subconscious mind goes, okay, cookie good. And now we're starting to store a belief in our subconscious mind that plays all the time. Okay? So now we're going to learn about how can we interrupt that. We know the process we just went through, but this is kind of a different approach. Comfort and discomfort. We have to become comfortable with the notion of being uncomfortable. There was a study where they showed pictures to a group of normal, average people, and they showed the same pictures to a group of depressed people. And the pictures were either happy images or really sad, gray, kind of depressing images. And when they asked the depressed group, okay, we have more pictures to show you. What do you want to see? More of the happy pictures or more of the really sad, depressing pictures? The depressed people said, I'd like to see more depressing pictures, please. Why would they do that? Why would you do that? Because they're comfortable. They identify themselves as being depressed. They're comfortable in that space, okay? And so seeing depressive pictures when they're depressed, they know what that's all about. They live their life there, and they're very comfortable in that space. Does that make sense? We do that to ourselves in a lot of other arenas. I eat wheat. I know it makes me bloated and gassy. I know it's bad for me, but I'm comfortable with gas and bloating. I understand what it's about. I know it will pass, and so I'm going to live in that space and accept it. So we do things all the time that are deleterious to ourselves, but we become comfortable. The woman that's in a bad relationship, and maybe the guy is abusive in some way, but she stays in the relationship because at least I understand this relationship, and it's scary to think what else might be out there. So we do it in a lot of different ways. We do it to ourselves. So there's a concept of the pain body. Now this is not Judson Brewer's work. This is more of Tolley's work, but this is where the two kind of overlap. The pain body is basically an old emotional pain. It's a recognition of negative, bad things that have happened to us. For example, I have a friend who spends time in Israel. He's Jewish, and he grew up in a war zone, right? The Palestinians and the Israelis, those two countries have been at war since the dawn of time. And so you grew up in a household where those bad Palestinians, we hate them, and they killed your uncle. And imagine all the pain that comes with that growing up in that environment versus maybe somebody else grew up in a very happy household in the middle of Iowa, farming, and there was no tragedy, right? Their sense of pain is very, very different. And then you go through life and you gather your own pains, bad things that happen, bad relationships, bad occurrences. But the pain body is that recognition of pain, and the pain body will erupt, much like your ego. Remember the ego, it erupts and it goes, pay attention to me. And when you pay attention to your ego, and fuel it with anger, and fuel it with envy, and fuel it with bad ideas, the ego gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And same with the pain body. If the pain body, we all have some degree of discomfort, but our negative thinking is fuel for the pain body. When we reside in painful thinking, we tend to stimulate that pain body. It's being fed, right? So understanding that this is a part of us innately, we can choose to fuel it or not fuel it. And obviously you would say, well, nobody would want to feed their pain body, but we do it. When we talk to ourselves in a negative way, that's exactly what we're doing. Two monks going down a road, and heavy torrential rains made the road almost impassable. It was so muddy, okay? And a young woman in white garb was trying to cross the street, was having horrendous difficulty carrying her load and making it across the street. And the one monk went over and picked her up, carried her across the muddy road, and put her down on the other side. And they walked on in silence. And 5 hours later, the second monk that had watched that said, "Brother, why did you pick her up? We're not supposed to engage with people in that fashion." And he said, I put her down hours ago. Apparently you're still carrying her. Okay? So the one was disturbed by the actions of the other, and he ruminated for 5 hours before he finally said something. But that's part of the pain body. We recognize painful things in our life, and rather than cut them, we feed them, and they fester, and we carry it with us. We still carry the heartache of that breakup. We still carry the disappointment that we didn't get that promotion. We carry that pain with us, and we feed it every time we engage in it. Just like the ego. When we give it attention, we're feeding it. So we have this tendency in our lives to do it. That can lead to addictive behaviors. If my pain body is out of control and I always feel put upon, I always feel like I'm the victim. I feel like I don't get a fair shake and life is not fair to me, and I carry that pain body forward, I'm going to seek resolve. I'm going to seek relief. I feel like my brain will explode at the end of a day because the day was so stressful. So I'm going to take my antidepressants or my drugs for my brain. I'm going to drink alcohol for my brain. I'm going to smoke cigarettes to calm my brain. Or, one that isn't here is, I'm going to eat this chocolate cake for my brain. Because I have these triggers that generate behaviors that lead to rewards. And as I get addicted to my rewards, now it's just a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over again. Okay? So just understanding that that can be there is the first step in disabling it. My unwillingness to give up a food. Life's not worth living without bread or cookies or ice cream or fill in the blank. That just represents an addiction. You need that food to make life meaningful. Really? Just be honest with yourself. If that's what we're doing, if it's the booze, if it's the food, if it's the cigarettes, just be honest with yourself. And recognize that that's a loop that you've created, okay? And recognize that the joy diminishes over time. When you have a brownie, the first 2 or 3 bites are really good. Is the 4th or 5th or 6th bite necessary or even as good? And what about that second brownie? Really? Catch yourself doing these things and recognize you're just in an addictive loop. So, re-enter Judson Brewer and his thought process on the mindful habits. Here's what Judson would say if you walked into his clinic and said, I'm a smoker, I want to stop smoking. He'd say, okay, here's what you do. Go home and smoke. Wait a minute, I came here to stop smoking. I know, we're going to get to that. Go home and smoke. Go home and eat your sweets. Engage in whatever habit. Go ahead and drink your bourbon. But I want you to do it mindfully. This is what Judson would say to the smoker, for example. When we go to have that cigarette, We can't smoke indoors, you have to go outside, right? So before I even get outside and light up, I'm already feeling the reward. Here it comes, I'm gonna get that cigarette, it's gonna be awesome, right? Or I know that there's a big chocolate cake at home and I can't wait to finish my job and get home because I'm gonna have the biggest piece of chocolate cake. And before we even have it, our brain is already experiencing the reward. It's gonna be awesome. And even if it isn't, our brain is already saying, this is awesome. This is my reward. And so what he tells the smoker or the overeater of sugars and things, okay, smoker, I want you to go home and have your cigarette, but this time, instead of experiencing the reward and the joy of it, just be mindful. Light up your cigarette and just pay attention. Don't be judgmental, but just be aware and mindful. What does it really feel like? What does it really smell like? What's it really taste like? Because so often we're into our habit and we're experiencing the reward because we know that it theoretically is there, and we're not being in the moment of experiencing what we're actually doing. I may be having that glass of bourbon and I know that bourbon, oh, I love that feeling and we may not recognize the fact that, oh, it causes a little bit of heartburn, or oh, it makes me feel, you know, less energetic, or ooh, it gives me a hangover. We're not being mindful and experiencing that in real time. Does that make sense? So for the smoker, they may come back and go, you know what I noticed? I really smell bad. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And actually, it doesn't calm me down. But you can't sense that. You can't feel that if you're not being mindful in the moment. Does that make sense? So mindfulness, without judgment, simply observe. Let's say somebody eats too many sweets, too many cookies, too much bread, too much whatever, and they go, oh, I just can't get rid of it. Be mindful of how you really feel when you eat that. Observe yourself, okay, with every treat that you have. So if I eat wheat and sugar, oftentimes people will say, I did notice my stomach bloated a little bit, I had a little bit of gas, maybe even heartburn. If you do it consistently, it contributes to joint pain. Some people will notice, yeah, I notice if I eat wheat 3 days in a row, I do get my knees ache a little bit, my back aches a little bit, I just feel a little bit achy. Or I'll get a headache because the sugar rush comes and goes, I may get a headache. It increases my cravings. I want to have it again and again and again. You ever be off sugar for 3-4 weeks and then a holiday comes and you have a little? What happens? You want more, and you want more, and you want more. And what Judson's saying is just be aware. Notice yourself. Decide to be present in that moment and notice how your body really responds, because maybe the reward you're envisioning isn't as shiny as you think it is. And maybe there's other rewards that might be better. My brain may feel dull when I eat those things. I might feel sluggish, okay? So was the reward truly as good as you expected? Was it worth it, in other words? What was the price that you paid? What was the pain you experienced? How did you really feel after you had that thing? And the whole idea is don't give up sugar. Don't lose weight because somebody says you have to. That's like willpower, right? It's not going to work. Don't do it because you have to. Do it because you want to see, just like your vision statement, what would it be like without it? I wonder get curious about it. How would I feel, how would I function if I had the mindset to not engage in that habit? Would I go from being a passenger way back here in the bus, no control, the habit owns you, the addiction owns you? What would it be like to step up front and drive the bus and be in control? And when you're driving the bus, there's some hazards you have to avoid and there's some responsibility you take on, but you're in control of it, right? That's a whole different feeling than sitting in the back. So again, don't make the reward weight loss. I'm going to give up wheat and sugar so that I can lose weight. You will lose weight, but don't make that the reason you do it, because that will pale. Under stress, that's not a big enough mover or stimulus to do the thing that we want to do. The real reward is the sensation of controlling your mind, of being in the present moment, self-control, inner peace, better energy. So true happiness, not just a dulled mind and self-loathing, because isn't that what we do? We have the cake, and then an hour later we're going, you idiot, why did you do that? We have that second drink. Oh, really? Did you need the second one? You know, we do this to ourselves all the time. We're beating the hell out of ourselves for no good reason, because the benefits are endless. The idea of having a calm brain, of feeling in control. When we begin to add meditation to exercise and mindfulness and practicing our vision statement, we begin to take control of our brain. And the world stops being a closed environment and it starts to open up possibilities, and you realize, oh my gosh, anything is possible. I own this. I own this. So Brewer says, you know, trigger, behavior, reward. Just simply begin to observe it. Notice what the triggers are, catch yourself with the behavior, and identify what's the reward. Recognize your habit loops. Simply notice your behavior. Don't change it at first. Don't change it. Just recognize it. Be prepared to simply be in that moment and feel it. Really feel, what's it feel like? And what's the reward for that behavior? What do I get from this? If you're the person that has to have the cookie or the bourbon or the cigarette or the Prozac, what am I getting from it? Is it really the reward as good as I think it should be? And is it really worth it? Is there a better reward? And maybe that reward is being in control. So Brewer recommends this approach. He calls it RAIN, okay? And there's a couple of small, simple tenets to it. First of all, just recognize. That's the easy part. I recognize my craving. I want a cookie. And there are cookies right down the hall in the kitchen, right? They're right there. And I can choose to engage in my mindset of thinking, oh my God, that'd be such a great reward. I can't wait to get there. But stop for a second. Just pause. The cookie's there. You can have it. But allow it to be, all right? Allow the craving to simply be there. Don't act on it yet. Just allow it to be there. And now begin to investigate it. Just be curious. The curiosity of a child. What does this feel like? What does this craving feel like to me? And just sit in that space. What does it feel like in my body? Does it feel like tension? Now you're going to begin to take notes. Does it feel like tension? Is it tightness? Do I feel like my head's going to explode? Do I feel impatient? This craving is simply driving emotions. And remember we talked about, we have experiences that lead to thoughts that stimulate emotions. And that's all your body's experiencing, is some emotion. And craving is nothing more than that. We tend to quickly jump from craving to satisfaction. I need it. If I don't get it, I will explode. Are you really going to explode? So with the RAIN principle, the next time you feel that addictive urge, stop and just tell yourself, you know what? I'm going to give myself 3 minutes. I'm going to have the cookie, the cigarette, the whatever, but I'm not going to have it for at least 3 minutes because I'm going to sit with this feeling and get comfortable with it. I'm going to make notes about what it feels like. I'm just going to tell myself, oh, this is what craving feels like. That's simple enough to do, right? Recognize that this is a craving. I don't have to act on it. In fact, if I say to myself, if I don't drink or smoke or eat, my head's going to explode. Ask yourself, is that really going to happen? And spend 3 whole minutes and see if your head really explodes. And guess what? It won't. All right? But now you're beginning to take mindfulness, awareness. You're feeling it, you're acknowledging it, and you're being in the present moment instead of just running to satisfy that craving. And we're trying to create that wedge between the desire and the action, between the craving and the reward. And that wedge is simply a little period of time to sit and acknowledge and experience and decide if I'm willing to let that go. Decide if I'm willing to just experience that craving without acting on it. So create a little bit of space instead of just reacting to it immediately. Develop the ability to appreciate the reward of peace and tranquility. What if you didn't have that drink, that cookie, that cigarette, whatever it is, and 5 whole minutes pass and you still haven't had it? What's going to happen to that craving? Is it going to amplify? No, not typically. Cravings physiologically come in waves. Check your addiction meter, right? Just write it out. Can I write out this craving? Learning that it's not the end of the world, and just decide, I'm willing to be okay with this. I'm willing to feel the tension and feel the angst and feel the pressure, and I'm willing to just feel that for a few minutes and see what that feels like. And inevitably, this is what happens. Cravings come in waves. They always do. Most emotions come in waves. You feel it. You ever get angry at somebody and you want to lash out? You want to write that email, you son of a gun, rah, rah. And if you write it and send it, it's followed by remorse. Oh shit, I shouldn't have done that, right? And if you just pause, sometimes you might even write it, but then delete it, okay? You got it out, you deleted it. And what did you do? You disengaged the ego. And what do you almost always feel? Better. Better that I didn't send that nastiness out into the universe, into somebody else's face. Things in life do come in waves. Remember we talked last week about things just are. And they will all pass. Everything will pass. Pain will pass, pleasures will pass, everything in your life will pass. And this craving will also pass, just like a wave. And all Brewer is suggesting, be mindful, be curious, experience it, put it on like a suit of clothes, but just be willing to be comfortable with discomfort. Now we're back to Goggins, right? Be comfortable with discomfort and ride it out, and it will pass. So ride that wave. This guy's doing it beautifully. He caved in, okay? But be willing to ride that wave. So here's your assignment moving forward. Select a habit or an addiction or a tendency that you want to change. Maybe it's one of the things that we talked about already. Identify your trigger. Identify it. Recognize what it is. If I have a really stressful day, I need to go home and have drinks. Recognize the behavior. Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's cigarette, maybe it's food, and recognize the reward. And then begin to really explore that reward. Was it really that rewarding? Was it everything that your brain had built it up to be? Practice the RAIN concept. Simply recognize it, allow it, investigate it, and make notes. And now you're becoming cognitive about your habits. Instead of becoming a reactionary machine, you're just taking time to think about it. And if it's too scary to say, well, I couldn't do that, you're going to have your cookie. Like I said, give it 3 minutes, give it 4 minutes, and then go get your cookie. But then while you're having a cookie, do it consciously, do it mindfully. What does it really feel like? And then, was it really worth it? And if you can, more times than not, decide, no, you know what? I'm not going to have the cookie. Even secure yourself. Say, I'm going to have it tomorrow, but today I'm going to decide no. Okay? And the more you can do that, the more you take control of it, and the addiction doesn't own you. It doesn't empower you. Okay? You're taking power over those addictions. And you can apply this to anything. You can apply this to, I don't work out, I should work out, I need to work out, but I don't, right? We've been putting in substances like sugar, or nicotine, or alcohol, or drugs as the addiction. But sometimes you're addicted to the armchair, not the gym, all right? So you can apply it to anything. And like I said at the bottom, enrich your inner Goggins, right? Be comfortable with discomfort. Seek out discomfort. That's when we grow. That's when we grow. So when you're feeling uncomfortable, I've often joked that it's illegal to be hungry in the United States of America. Oh my God, you're hungry? Let me get you a big slurp and a sandwich and fries. Oh my gosh, you have enough food? It's okay to be hungry. It's okay to have a little discomfort. All right, we ran a little bit over. These are the books that are in your book list. They're in your little manual there. Pick out one. Start to read. There's some books by Tolley, Ricard. We talked about Judson Brewer's work today. James Allen book written in 1902, As a Man Thinketh. But pick one or two of these books and just start going through it a little bit at a time. All right? It's not a reading assignment from your teacher. You're not going to be quizzed. But I swear, if you read just 3 of these books this year, the end of 2019 would be amazingly different. Okay? You would have definitely grown and changed things. So we are done for the day. Are there any questions, Chris, online from our viewers? And do you guys have any thoughts or questions about any of that? Not so much? Okay. Well, I appreciate your kind patience. Go home today and finish your vision statement. Promise yourself you're going to spend at least 15 minutes just sitting in that space. And even if you don't understand the assignment entirely, sit in that space anyway. Reread some of the notes that you have, all right? And begin to explore that. And then secondarily, if you have some addictive substance, go through and read those notes about RAIN and just engage them. See how you do, all right? It's all about taking on and empowering your ability to be anybody you want to be. Making the impossible not even an element. All right? All right. Go enjoy your day. Be careful in the snow.